The new M4 Mac Mini has taken the internet by storm, but a lot of people seem to be overlooking its all-in-one brother. The M4 iMac received a frankly much larger update than we all thought this time around. In addition to getting a chip swap over to the M4 chip, we now have USB-C on all of its accessories. And we get the center stage camera as well as a nano texture display option for the first time. So this is really reigniting the age-old debate. Do you buy an iMac or do you kind of DIY yourself a Mac Mini setup? Whew, it's a tough choice, I gotta say, because both of these computers are better than ever. So when I say it's a tough choice, I mean tough because both options are very, very good. Now keep in mind that I'm going to be comparing the base model $1,300 iMac to the base model $600 Mac Mini. And the main weakness in both of these devices is 256 gigabytes of storage. That has been really pissing me off while trying to test these things because the storage fills up in like 2 seconds. But setting aside the shortcoming there, the key difference between these two particular models is that the iMac at $1,299 comes with the binned version of the M4 chip. That means instead of 4 performance, 6 efficiency, and 10 GPU cores, you're looking at 4 performance, 4 efficiency, and 8 GPU cores. And while you might think that the GPU cores would make the bigger difference here, the testing begs to differ. In Cinebench 2024 for the multi-core test, the M4 in the Mac Mini is more than 35% faster than the M4 in this iMac. But in the GPU test, the Mac Mini is only about 10% faster than the iMac. But nonetheless, the results hold true in Blender. On the classroom CPU test, the M4 Mac Mini is massively faster than this iMac. It's more than 2 minutes different. But again, the GPU test shows almost no difference at all. The iMac is only 3 seconds slower than the Mac Mini. So that was a pretty surprising result, and honestly, I was expecting the GPU on the iMac to be quite a bit slower than it was. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And before we get into the thermals, a quick word from today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by TP-Link's Deco BE25 Mesh Wi-Fi 7 system. Coming in at $300 with 3 base stations, it provides up to 6,600 square feet of coverage with insanely fast 5 gigabit per second speeds for over 150 connected devices. So say goodbye to those frustrating dead zones and enjoy seamless internet access in every room, whether you're streaming, gaming, or working. Wi-Fi 7 is fast becoming the standard, which means you can max out existing Wi-Fi 6 bandwidth while offering up to double the speeds for Wi-Fi 7 devices. Plus, multi-link operation enables devices to use multi-link aggregation to enable higher throughput. And Deco BE5000 is easy to set up and use. Just a few clicks through the simple app or its web interface can get your system up and running. So to learn more, check out the link in the description below. And now let's get back to the video. Okay, so we've established that the Mac Mini with the full M4 chip is going to be noticeably faster than the binned chip in the iMac. But what about the thermals? Because the new Mac Mini design has a really, really interesting thermal architecture. And we also can't forget that the base model iMac has 1 fan compared to 2 fans on the upgraded models. So that is going to impact the performance and thermals. And sure enough, if we start running Cinebench, you'll notice that very quickly the iMac performance cores start to get into the red. All 4 cores are somewhere between 101 and 108 degrees Celsius. But you'll also notice that the fan is barely going here. So what the heck is that? Well, to be honest, this is pretty typical behavior for Apple Silicon. Apple has shown that they are more than willing to let these chips sit at 105 degrees Celsius if it means that the fans are going to be nice and quiet. That is clearly the priority. And hey, look, I'm not the one building these machines. So if Apple is saying that this machine is totally fine sitting at 100 degrees Celsius under load, then I'm gonna believe them. Apple Silicon has now been on the market for 4 years, and I have not seen any compelling evidence of widespread heat-related chip death. But still, it's pretty clear that the Mac Mini is doing significantly better with only 1 or 2 of its performance cores going into the red. And you'll even notice that the efficiency cores are touching on the red zone in the iMac. But what happens if we shake things up a bit? Let's max out the fan speeds, you'll notice that this iMac goes to more than 7,000 RPM compared to 4,900 RPM on the Mac Mini. And no surprise here, as soon as you max out the fans, the temperatures start to decrease. However, the Mac Mini starts to go down really fast. We're dropping from 100 degrees Celsius all the way down to 80 on the performance cores, and all 10 of our cores are well in the green zone. But the iMac isn't doing the same thing. In fact, all of its performance cores are staying in the red despite the fan now being 7,000 RPM. So this definitely helps explain why we saw such a large delta between the performance of the 10-core M4 and the 8-core M4. The iMac is hitting some thermal limitations, and it's clearly not running this chip as hard as it could. Although I do think it's worth noting that the iMac fan is really quiet, even when it's completely maxed out. Now normally that would be a good thing. We like a quiet Mac, but in this case, I really just don't think it's moving any air. The maxed out Mac Mini on the other hand, well, that's a lot louder. So clearly the performance choice is the Mac Mini. There's no question about it. But when you're picking between these setups, you're not just picking a chip, you're picking a setup. And the iMac does have a really compelling package. From when you unbox it to setting it up takes just a few minutes. Peel the thing off the screen, unwrap your mouse and keyboard, plug the dang thing in. You can have this thing up and running in less than 2 minutes. And best of all, there's only a single cord coming out the back, which is really clean and minimal. Although you do still have to deal with this chunky external power supply, which mercifully houses the Ethernet port on the higher end models. And that means that you can literally have a single cord on the top of your desk, which is pretty cool. And look, this thing is just really nice. I absolutely love the colors and the design of this machine. That is what the iMac has always been about. And this new generation really feels like Apple has refocused on what the original iMac was. They're even the same price. That's right, $1299 was the starting price of the original 1998 iMac, and that remains to this day. And I gotta say, I love the refreshed colors for this generation, and I love the fact that you get a color-matched keyboard and mouse, and just having everything all in one box, ready to go in 2 minutes is just a really compelling option. However, you could easily make the counter argument that the modularity of the Mac Mini's system allows for greater flexibility. I mean, heck, as great as this 4.5K display is, I want something bigger than 24 inches. And since Apple has killed off the large screen iMacs for now, you basically have zero alternative. If you want a larger screen, you cannot get an iMac. But heck, if we're gonna talk about upgradability and customization, we can't skip over the fact that this new generation of Mac Mini has removable storage. That is an absolutely monumental shift in the value proposition of this machine, and it means that you don't have to worry about spending money on Apple's stupid upgrade prices. In a couple of months, you'll be able to do it yourself. However, there is a downside to all of this upgradability. In addition to having just more wires coming out of your setup, that if you want to go the Apple route and create this setup, which is in my opinion, the most comparable to this iMac, you're gonna have to shell out $79 for a Magic Mouse, $99 for a Magic Keyboard. And if you want an Apple display with their incredible pixel density and optimization, you're gonna need $1,600 for a studio display. That is outrageous. This exact Mac Mini setup costs $2,376, and that is a pretty penny. For that amount of money, you could spec this iMac with the 10-core M4 chip, 4 Thunderbolt ports, Ethernet port, 32 gigabytes of unified memory, and a terabyte of storage. And you'd also get Touch ID and the center stage camera and a bunch of other little nice things that make this setup great. And it's still cheaper, by the way. But the nice thing about the Mac Mini is you don't have to do this exact setup. I'd pair this Mac Mini with my Dell 32-inch 4K 144Hz monitor. That costs $600. I'd keep the Magic Mouse because, quite frankly, I like a Magic Mouse. And I'd also throw in my custom USB-C Mac keyboard. This thing is absolutely legendary with a metal backplane, metal frame, dampened keys. It feels incredible to type on, and putting all of this together would be less than $1,700. But heck, why stop there? If you really wanted to, you could get this Mac Mini setup to be less than the price of a base model iMac. I'd pair it with a BenQ PD2705U 27-inch 4K display for $420, and you can pick up a renewed Logitech MX Keys keyboard for $60. So with a Magic Mouse, you're looking at a total cost of $1,157, and it would give you room to upgrade the storage down the line on this Mac Mini. I think that's a pretty compelling value, to be honest. But that's not to say that the iMac doesn't have its place. I think the viewers of this particular video are probably going to be more likely to lean towards the Mac Mini because chances are you're a tech enthusiast. You want something that is customized extremely well to you. So in many ways, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but at the same time, I've seen this new generation of iMac start cropping up all over the place. It makes a great family computer. It can sit in your living room and look like a piece of interior design instead of a computer. I've been to restaurants that use these at their hostess stand to manage reservations. I've seen them at trendy art galleries and dozens of other types of small businesses that want to have a simple, easy solution to a desktop to work at. I mean, heck, if I was running an IT department at a business, I would much rather deploy 250 iMacs and just be done with it than have to figure out 250 keyboards and 250 mice and 250 screens to go with my 250 Mac Minis. But I'd love to know what you guys think. How would you configure your iMac or Mac Mini? Have you already bought one? Are you planning to? And which do you think is the better value? Let me know all of that in the comments down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. And with that, I'll see you all in the next one.